Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're going to be making a fun little Tic Tac Toe Board. Well, it's Kids Day today on the show, and there's nothing I like more than promoting children in the workshop, teaching them something other than those electronic devices that every child seems to be just addicted to and can't get through life without. So today it's a very simple project, and this applies to not only the young people but also the beginners out there that are looking for a simple fun project that they can make, hone some of their skills, and give this as a gift to their friends or family. And it all starts off with some scrap stock from the wood rack. Well, I've gone over to the wood rack and I found this scrap of cherry, and it's 1 inch thick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to the table saw and I'm going to cut it to 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches square. Well, at this point now, you want to make sure that all of your corners are square. You don't want any corners that are out of whack or that are not 100% square because of the next step, and I'll get into that in just a bit. You also want to make sure that it is perfectly the same dimension on the width as it is on the length. The reason for that is because of our setup at the router table, and what I have is a 1/4 inch round nose bit with a 1/4 inch shank, and we're just going to take this over to the router table and install it. Well, this is where I love the simplicity of this. I have that router bit installed in the router, and I have it raised about 1/8 of an inch above the table. I also have my fence set approximately 1.5 inches from the center of the bit to the edge of the fence. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to choose which side of the cherry I want to be the top. I think maybe this side. And I'm going to run it against the fence, run it through the bit, just like that. Once I clear it, I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees and run it through again. That will provide me with my 2 lines to start our tic-tac-toe board. Now, because we've made our board perfectly square and perfectly symmetrical, all we have to do now is rotate it 90 degrees and repeat the process where we will run it through and then rotate it 180 degrees, and that will provide us with our last 2 grooves that will complete our board layout. Well, now with the routing done, at each individual square, we're going to place a mark corner to corner on it and mark the center of each one of these squares and center punch it. Well, the next step is to drill a 1/2 inch Forstner bit hole at each one of those punch locations, and we've set the depth stop of the drill press to only allow that hole to drill 3/16 of an inch deep. With all of those holes, we have 2 more holes to drill here, and we're going to do that on the long grain side of our piece. On the side of our board, we're going to measure right in line with our grooves here, and in the middle of each one we're going to drill an 11/16 diameter hole, and it's going to be 4 inches deep. Well, the next thing to do is give the top surface a complete sanding, as well as sand in your grooves here, making sure that everything is nice and smooth. Well, with your piece fully sanded here on the top surface, I have now taken some scrap pieces of 3/8 thick walnut, and I have cut them at a 45 degree on each end, and what that is going to be will be a frame around our board. So I'm going to line these pieces up. I've numbered them so that the grain all aligns all the way around when you finally get it put together. This way the grain is continuous around our board. I don't know if that shows very well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this in place and then clamp it up and let it dry. However, the one thing that you don't want to do here is on the end where you drilled those 11/16 inch holes, do not glue your frame at this end. So you will glue all 3 other sides, clamp it together as if it's a glued up frame, but do not glue this piece. Well, it's been a while, and we can unclamp our game board now that our frame has dried up. And we should have one section here, there we are, that is not attached. And the rest should be perfectly on there. So at this point now, we need to head over to the drill press. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill some rare earth magnets into both our frame piece on the inside and into our game board so that this end piece can magnet into place and finish off our frame, as well as close off our holes in our board. Well, truth be told, the holes that I have drilled in our game board for the magnets are drilled to hold a 1/4 inch long magnet, whereas the holes that are in the piece of the frame are drilled to hold a 1/8 inch thick magnet. So I've got the thicker magnet in the lid, and we're just going to check to make sure that our holes align. And they do, which is nice. That'll hold it in properly. You want to make sure that your holes are perfectly aligned, because if they're not, once the magnets snap in place there, it's going to hold your cover all out of whack. So now we can pull these magnets out, and I'm going to put a drop of CA glue into each one of these holes and push these magnets in, and then we're going to do something a little different in order to get the opposite side magnets in. And we'll just place a drop in each hole. There's one there and one there. And we'll just place our magnets down inside. And then we'll just tap them in place to fully seat them. Well, in order to get the polarity right on our magnets, we're not going to take anything to chance. We're going to let the magnets tell us what the polarity is. And once they're attached on there, we'll make sure that we have this piece lined up. It goes this way. Yes, it goes that way. And we will just take a little drop of CA glue into each one of our holes that we drilled. And we'll just put a drop in each, like that. And then we'll just flip this over onto our magnets and let them set into place. And then I'll go answer the phone. All right, and now that we have that in place, our lid just, once we set it the right way, snaps in place just like that. And that closes up our holes. So what do we do with it now? Well, now we can give the whole thing a good sanding all over. Well, a game board isn't much fun without the game board pieces, and what you're going to need for that is going to be 10 marbles. 5 of them of one color and 5 of them of the other. Now, if you remember, we drilled those 11/16 inch holes. If we just pull off this magnet section here, that is to store our marbles in. So there's 3, 4, 5 marbles on that side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marbles on that side, and then you just put your lid on it, and your game's ready to travel wherever you want it to go. And I think the last step that I'm going to do with this is I'm going to give it a coating of Danish oil just to bring out the orangey red of the cherry and the browns of the walnut. And then once I get that finished, we're done. That is our project. And there you have it. A tic-tac-toe marble game. Guys, what did this project take? It took 10 marbles, some scrap walnut, and a scrap piece of cherry that was 4.5 by 4.5 by 1 inches thick. The rest of it was all basic setups on the router table and on the drill press. The great thing about this project, well, there's several great things, but the main one is the ease of the build because of the setup. Because everything is symmetrical, it requires only one setup over at the router table. And even if it's off just a little bit, because all of those grooves are all the exact same spacing from the side walls of your project, the only thing that might look off will be the center hole. But even still, it still works out because by drilling the holes that house the marbles for the gameplay, secondly, by doing it after, you are centering all of those on the routed grooves, and therefore it brings it all back together, even if you're off a little bit on your first step. The marble storage. How much more simple could it get than drilling a hole to drop marbles in? Guys, I did this fancy frame with magnets around it just because I could, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a hinged piece at the end. Or what if you wanted to drive a dowel down through it and have it so that it kind of opens by sliding off the edge of the board to allow the marbles to come out. The storage was just a little added feature which helped it along to give it that final kind of coolness of it. Look at the way that the finish brought out the colors in this. And it is the most simple finish in the world. How hard is it to rub it on, wipe it off, and then let it dry? It's a simple finish, but you know what? It looks great. Now here's the thing I love most about this project. It's not the drilling, it's not the ease of the setup, it is not the marble storage. It's getting your kids in the shop. Guys, you're not just creating a project or a game for them, you're creating memories. You are creating that thought in their head of, remember that time that we went into your shop and we made that game, and then we went inside and played it for like 10 hours straight, and I kicked your butt, but you won some. That's okay. You know what I'm saying here? You have the ability to create memories with your children that will last a lifetime. Forget about how much fun they're going to have playing the game with you. It's the memories. Those are the things in life that we cherish, because guys, once that time is gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. So take the opportunity now and get your children in the shop. Guys, this project is a load of fun with minimal skill needed and minimal material needed. You can make multiples of them and give them as gifts for birthdays, Christmas, or just a hey, thinking of you kind of a gift. Why not? Guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that bell so that you don't miss notifications of future episodes of the show. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've had a lot of fun bringing it to you. I hope you're going to try it yourself, guys. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.